Good evening from New York. I'm Selwyn Collins, your host of CWS Journeys. Those of you who are joining us for the first time, a very special welcome to you. Tonight, our guest is no stranger to CWS Journeys. He has been here before. His name is Richard Young. Richard Young, you guys will find out sooner or later during this conversation, is an authority on the Caribbean and all things Caribbean, especially Caribbean fashion and design and Caribbean history. So I'm really excited to have another chat with Richard again because of the things that he has been involved in between the last time he was here and now. So I am not going to take a break. I'm just going to bring in Richard Young and, let's just start. Richard, good evening.
Hello. Hi, good evening.
Welcome to CWS again.
Okay, it's nice being here again. This time I'm not in Trinidad though.
Yes, well, yeah, and I'm glad that the technology is working to make this this event this evening here possible. Richard, for those who are now meeting you for the first time in our audience, who is this very creative person we have come to know as Richard Young?
Well, I carry within me a spirit that I think is a Caribbean spirit. I am working out on unearthing why it is so passionate in me. And in the efforts to do so, I'm constantly learning, and I'm sharing. It has become what one wants to call my expertise, which is to claim our Caribbean self, to identify that we are distinctive and unique and special and different, to understand that in spite of the fact that we came out of a grueling past few centuries of slavery, indentureship, and some dehumanizing experiences, we have now formed a collective that is new world and modern, eclectic, and plural and syncretic, which means, in essence, that there is a mixture, a miscegenation of culture, a wonderful cosmopolitanism that makes us clearly and uniquely different. And the identification of that came to me while growing up. I didn't have to run away or go abroad to search for self and then recognize, oh my God, I'm missing my essence. I saw it. I was fortunate because my aunt is a folk heroine from Trinidad and Tobago, Jean Poggin Simmons. So coming up under her wing, I was able to understand folk and the indigenous, and that history defines us, and learning to mix with people in different cultures and different spheres makes you a better person on the planet Earth.
Well, saying that, Richard, you wear many hats. I've come to know you over the years. What exactly do you do in the fashion and design industry?
Well, I have called myself a production designer.
Uh-huh.
It's a simple way of addressing what I do. I design production. But my interpretation of production is any showcase of the beauty of the region, be it through music, dance, performing arts, graphic arts, pageantry, fashion showcasing. As long as we are showcasing beauty from this part of the world to any part of the world, we need to stage it in a way that belongs to us. We need to stage it in a way with a methodology that identifies, defines, and celebrates who we are.
I see.
So
that's
how it started for me. I know I was just a dancer first.
I see activities in your background, Richard. Is that why you're over there?
Well, I'm here working. I have been taken up as a creative consultant in the Ministry of Culture under the Minister Chet Green, and so I'm here to evolve what we'll call a fashion week, bring in the creative arts sector within the fashion industry to bear itself in a reckonable way and to add to the template of things in the Caribbean. Because right now in the Caribbean, fashion weeks and fashion weekends have become a significant event tourism drive to enhance destination marketing. So that I've been working with designers for 4 or 5 years, young designers and the established ones, and bringing all of the adjuncts of that creative endeavor to bear, which is hair and makeup and set design and logistics management and event coordination and front of house management and show production generally, so that we constantly re-inform ourselves of our specialness, because I think sometimes we lose that. So I'm here working on the pageant. So back in the back of me, you might see some moving young ladies.
Yes.
And my assistant Jeffrey is going through the pieces with them, because the ministers give me the task of working with a local group here, my partners Vanderlei Gardner and Bernard Francis, to change the psyche and the way that pageants are done. So the old school method of pageants, being close to what people might want to call cattle shows, is out the window. A pageant is a celebration of beautiful people, which is the human resource component, the unique human resource feature that we celebrate. So learning to walk better is just to enhance you being a human in this part of the world. You learning to articulate better and to be more sociable, to develop your social skills, is important to the rebranding exercise that the Ministry of Culture has asked me to indulge in. So that's what I'm doing,
Richard. If you were not doing all of this stuff, being the innovator and stage design and all these things, if you were not in this industry, what do you think you would be doing as a career? What else would you have liked to try?
Yes, well, it would have to be something with empowering people, empowering young people, because that has become my forte. It has become my métier. It has become, sometimes I'm not aware that I'm doing it. So I am seen as a person who motivates others. So as a result of that, I think that I would have remained in that sphere in whatever other way it would be. But creative, I can't imagine not wanting to be in the creative world. The creative world is what is now diversifying the way that we can earn money. You know, it is so that you're not going to be limited or held back to only doing the more traditional generating jobs and careers, because there is a plethora of options now. Because people ask me, just as you asked me, what are you? What do you do? And before I could not even answer, I had to find some self-definition. Now I can explain that this is what I do for 25 years.
Why are young people, especially, so near and dear to you, Richard? Why do you spend so much... Young people.
What is?
Young people, why are they so near and dear to you? Why do you spend so much time mentoring them?
Yes. Besides the fact that my name is young and I forever think I'm 21. And everybody thinks that is so funny. And I really believe it, because I try to have that essence. I don't even want the young people to call me Mr. Richard, Mr. Young, Uncle, or anything like that. Because not that I'm an ageist and I am going against people of an older age bracket. I feel that young people a lot of time are not listened to. I feel a lot of times that they don't have the opportunity to do enterprising, versatile, dynamic, different things. I chose to do it, and I was fortunate because my mother allowed us to go that way. Because my brother is a fashion designer. My sister used to model. I used to model before as well, when I used to dance as well. She allowed us to evolve into the human being that we have become, based on trying different things, trying different ways of expressing self for sustenance. We also have had a very, what you call, unionist background, because both our parents were union activists. And being union activists, you have to eke a way out to mandate the right of the worker. So we had a kind of socialist perspective. And to me, a socialist perspective is helpful for us being more humane. We always thought of things in a communal way, in a fraternal way, in a collective way. So the movement was always about not just the individual enhancing, but the group enhancing. Whether it's the community group, whether it's the group of practitioners, whether it is the country at large, I always felt that we all need to move forward. And that is what I bring to bear even with this pageant. I told them, we have the responsibility not only to change our own psyche in the understanding what a pageant could do, but to help the general public change their view and respect the person who has done this, and to understand the dignity that you are now being elevated with when you do this kind of ambassadorial service. You know, so I am always wanting to inform groups. And young people, I think now, because I'm put in front of them a lot of times for several different reasons. And the reason why they speak with me is because I want to hear what they have to say.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm.
And I think that that has become a formula for me, because when I listen to what they have to say, there is a sense of confidence that starts to happen with them, because this person, this human, this man, wants to hear what I have to say, even though I might not be as articulate as he is, even though my life chance and my life experience is not as varied as his. I still want to hear your personal story.
And Richard,
because I make them believe that their biography can enhance my understanding of the world.
And Richard, you advocate a lot of style and personal style and branding. What does personal style mean to you?
Personal style is it's simply the expression of who you are in the space that you live at the prevailing time. So as I have said in many of my talks, I think style is an expression, and fashion is a costume of that expression. And it's not just only in fashion, it's in the way we communicate, talk, posture, speak, express, gesticulate. The style is in all of that, and it's informed with cultural indicators, and it's informed with social components that come from your background and your community. So that I am, and because I was a sociology buff, because that's one of the areas I study, I'm always looking at people and analyzing them in groups, not too scientifically and not to relegate them in any way, but to understand them, you know. And so I use that sociological angling to understand people.
When did you realize? When did you realize you had a style of your own?
Well, since way back in my life, everybody always looked at me as unique. I didn't understand it at first, and I still don't, even now. It daunts me a lot of time that people are preoccupied with me. I have friends like Sonia Noel and Kirk Delpeche and Vanda here who motivate me, and because of their belief in me is why I still do what I want, what I do.
It's interesting. It's interesting that you mentioned those names, and especially well, actually, both of them think very highly of you. I only learned recently from Kirk that you were instrumental in bringing him into this, into the fashion arena, into the modeling arena. So I want to ask you a question on that. What is it you see in people, in young people, that causes you to tap them and to pursue them and to inspire them to take a chance in this particular industry?
Well, I think that a lot of times it's, you know, the famous line that you're only guilty, you're innocent until you're proven guilty. When I see another human being, and that's why I like the show Avatar so much, because it was a scientific inquiry into an appreciation of the fact that there is interconnectivity in all living organisms. And anything that is breathing, anything that is living, there must be respect for it, be it human, plant, animal. And when I see people, I am naturally inclined to be loving to them. So, and that is not necessarily with a religious slant. So I believed when I was growing up that that is natural, that humans are naturally inclined to be good to each other. So when I did, yes, some religious thinking, and that was the mandate of Jesus Christ, that do unto others that you want them to do, love your neighbor like yourself. It was natural for me because that's what it is. So I like to see good in people, and therefore if somebody has an aspiration, and I think that my expertise or my ability to articulate or my ability to position can enhance their enterprising spirit or moving forward, that's what I do as a matter of course. I mean, of course, the world is not made up of all the beautiful people, and they don't share your passion at the same level, so you have a lot of hurts along the way, a lot of bitterness, but I'm not even able to sustain it. I tell people sometimes I sit for a moment and I try to bring back a bad feeling about something to see if it can last, and it can't. I can't sustain it. And this is not an idle boast. I am unable to. If there is a shortcoming or a query or a problem, after we go over that hurdle, I am back to that plane with that human being to move forward. And so therefore I am cautious in the bad patch period if I think that person is worthy of continuing the association. So sometimes I look at people responding in the most vulgar and abusive and abrasive fashion for a particular thing that has happened in a relationship, which seems to look like they have forgotten all the good that was in the relationship. So that is why I would constantly move forward. So when I saw Kirk of Vincentian, young man wanting to model, when we started, I started this group called Mannequins Caribbean, and we had bases in about 7 countries. He was so enthusiastic, and that enthusiasm can only be seen in a positive way.
Yes.
So I thought it was my responsibility to shape, guide, encourage, nurture. So Kirk liked makeup, and I did makeup as a matter of course. It wasn't my favorite topic per se, favorite area of interest, but he would help me. And he came to Trinidad, and he came to St. Lucia from St. Vincent, he came to Antigua, and he moved around the Caribbean with me when we were moving the models and designers around. And then when he ended up in New York, he said he went once to a makeup counter, and he started applying makeup using his fingertips like he saw me doing, and they were amazed. So again, the Caribbean way of interpreting whatever given situation became a special way. They were mesmerized by this dynamic way. He's not using brushes and textbook tools. He was using his finger to craft.
Let's give that a few seconds and see if it comes back.
Yeah.
Just
So I thought I lost you there.
yes, yeah, you had lost me for a moment, but that's okay.
Yeah, so that is how I felt, and it's very inspiring for me and motivational, continually motivational for me to hear some stories of how some people regard my influence on them. I try to always remain humble. Sometimes because people look at me at 6'3.5" to 4, and I walk in the room because I have enhanced gait because that's the area I work in. One might assume that I'm an arrogant person, and that is so far from the truth, because I am consistently dealing with my own terrors, and as I just disclosed to the young ladies, that in unearthing your methods to deal with these fears and terrors, you become real with people.
Yes.
And that's how we share. So we just did, before you came on, what is the most embarrassing moment? I was the first to tell one, and then they each told an embarrassing moment and how it impacted on them and how it altered how they see the world and how they deal with people. So I know that I'm a doer. There's this famous Shakespearean line, to be or not to be, and I say it doesn't pertain now. It's to do or not to do, and if you're not doing, you're not being. You only are after having done, because you're constantly becoming. So that people who run after designations and titles without actually interfacing and interrelating and empowering and sharing and animating and nurturing, I I wouldn't say I don't have respect for them, but I have little time to spare in that direction, because I feel there must be purpose in most of our endeavors.
If I
And I need people when I'm working in a space. In fact, some people say I don't have fun time, but my fun time is in doing what I do.
if I
I don't do anything else.
if I may borrow that clever piece of poetry you used to make your point just now about to be or not to be, and being and becoming, to just ask you a particular question I'm curious about being Caribbean. Are we becoming Caribbean? A. B. The reason why I'm asking you this question is because recently I have spoken to several Caribbean people. Right here last night, I had a conversation with Jacqueline Charles, who you know is an amazing designer, jewelry designer. And Jacqueline said to me that she is a combination, she's a product of several different nationalities, depending on where her parents were born, her mother, her father, and she's, I think, partly Vincentian and so on. So she says, I am more a Caribbean woman than a Trinidadian. And I find
Yeah.
various people from that I meet from in the Caribbean are more claiming themselves as a Caribbean man or a Caribbean woman rather than Antiguan, Guyanese, whatever the case might be. What is a Caribbean person, Richard? How would you describe that?
I think that we have to understand how we are perceived.
Mm-hmm.
We are perceived as Caribbean throughout the archipelago of the splintered islands through the Caribbean Sea. And just as there is North American and there is Italian or European or South American, and those are quite larger land masses, and people accept that branding, we need to accept that branding.
Uh-huh.
That is the beginning of it. When you accept the branding that you're part of this larger identity called the Caribbean, we now can flesh it out. And fleshing it out means identifying the similarities and acknowledging the differences, but moving forward in spite of that.
Is there a Caribbean
Yes.
style?
I am a Caribbeanist.
Uh-huh.
I go even further. I'm a Caribbean, using it as a noun, or Caribbeanist, because I understand that we are of like mind and like history. And when I move around the region, I learn of the inflections that are different. And those inflections further nourish the brand Caribbean. But it doesn't shift from the the overall. Yeah. Yeah,
That's all right.
I-
This is being Caribbean. You know, we'll get it. We'll get it one day.
Yes.
Why
Part of
is
the thing is overcoming some of the challenges from being part of this world.
What-
And understanding our shortcomings and not being deflated or defeated by it, you know?
Yes.
Understanding that that is part of what we need to grow out of. You know?
why is style an intrinsic part of who we are?
Yeah. I am a mix. My grandfather is Kittitian. I went to St. Kitts just the other day to do a show there at the Marriott, and I asked the general public, is anybody in the house a young? I need to find my ancestry, because my grandfather never came to Trinidad. My father never saw my grandfather. My grandfather went to New York, where he was married to my grandmother, who is Trinidadian. And when she returned, because the relations dissolved, she came back home pregnant with my father, had my father, and started a new life. And her mother was from Grenada. and her mother's parents were of French stock, and my mother's grandparents were from Barbados of Irish stock. So it is a most crazy commingling of nationalities that end up in this melting pot that is the Caribbean. The way forward is not to stay with the challenge of all of the difference, but it is to appreciate what you call the creolizing, the mutations that have happened. And these mutations are now adding to the world template, because things that are in the Caribbean are identifiably so and different from other spaces. So we need to take the lead in saying who we are. We need to take charge of interpreting for the world who we are. I always make reference to the fact that in terms of our style, out there sees us wearing Hawaiian shirts, and Hawaii is not part of the Caribbean. Out there sees us wearing Bermuda shorts, and Bermuda is not part of the Caribbean. They see us wearing Panama hats, and Panama is not part of the region. So there is a misinformed understanding of what the texture of the Caribbean is. You know, part of the style is resort style, as identified by the world. The fashion cognoscenti of the world have identified resort style to be of breathing fabrics and relevant to the tropical space. You know, we live the resort style, so we need to be very in charge of how we disseminate that to the world. And it needs to be flavored with the nuances that come from here, which is quite different. I mean, the only other place that has that kind of plurality is probably in the Pacific, in the Singaporean ideal. But really and truly, because of the mix here, we offer to the world the paradise people that they see us to be. I think we grew up in a culture where we know we are not too celebratory of self. So we don't really see ourselves as paradise people. We always see ourselves as approximations of a first world status, as Naipaul says, mimic men. But I think we need to just claim the things that have been syncretized here and tell the world this is who we are. I'm of mixed stock. I love wearing color. I love talking with vernacular and colloquialisms. I like posturing and gesticulating a little more. So I don't have to be as stoic as the person who lives in a metropolis in the
is that part of our
nature.
Is that part of our branding?
That is indeed part of our branding. You know, if I were to take the volume down, as I tell people, and there is a screen up, I must say that looks like people in Castries, St. John's, Georgetown, Bridgetown, Port of Spain, Kingston, because there is a joy in their face in spite of the economy. There's a joy in their face in spite of social unease, political upheaval. There is a joy in telling the story even. We're very anecdotal and very colorful in our expression and our
Why is that, Richard? Why is that? You've studied history and to some degree, I guess, anthropology, but why is sociology? Why is that so? Why are we always or usually happy and joyous in spite of our pain?
I think that coming out of a negative past, and even when you read stories in the history of slavery, there was always a way to dupe the master. There was always a way of enjoying it in spite of the pain, of singing songs so that the misery of the plantation culture would not be so burdensome, of dancing and trying to reminisce on ancestral rites, of talking in quips and in beautiful expressions and axioms that the master class didn't understand, so that we can have the joke on them. And we were always exhibitionistic, either in exaggerating the pain that we are doing, for want of, for so that it can be reduced, or in exaggerating a situation. They used to say there's a sambo kwashi in all of us, where you overdo the fact that you're tired, or you overdo the fact that you are ailing, so that you can get a respite. There was always a performer in us. And I think that performing quality and that exhibitionistic quality is what led into the carnivals. We need to be seen to be enjoying. And enjoyment is not just a self-indulgent practice.
Yes.
I need to know that you are enjoying me for me to enjoy myself. So it takes up a performing, as I say, exhibitionistic quality.
So Richard,
and that is where I think the fun for living is, and the joie de vivre, as they call it, of Caribbean people, in always reasserting themselves in spite of depravity, in spite of pain, in spite of situations that are not easy.
So our ancestors have developed ways to anesthetize the suffering and the sorrow.
Yes, I think, and it has passed on in ways which make us more creative, because you have to use your imaginative, innovative, inventive side to find joy. It's like young children found ways of playing games. The ones who don't have the toys, the ones who don't have the means to access what is current and what is trendy. And they find novel ways and rare ways of enjoying space and enjoying time with others and enjoying being alone. And we have a lot of situations that force you into being more creative and imaginative. I think I myself, my own history, that is it. I always was observing. So people at one time thought, where was the quiet guy that went to primary school into secondary school? And now I can look on reflection and say I was observing. So that when I started speaking, some people used to say, you like to exaggerate, eh? You do lie. Because my observational skills were honed and they were acute. And so therefore now I master the articulation of what I observed, reinforced by my love for theater and literature. So now that has become one of my strengths. And since that's one of my strengths, I can now use that to enhance other people's own development or documenting of who we are.
One quick question. We take a quick break. You are obviously passionate, Richard, about art and culture and history and literature, Caribbean. So I am curious, when did this intimacy with all things Caribbean begin for you?
When did it start? It started it happened. You know, I read a line, life happens for you. Like you don't, what was the line I read today? Just today I was seeing it. That life happens for you. Meaning that things are presented so that you can evolve. In the 80s, when I was on the threshold of adulthood, everybody that I had respect for, and everybody was in the world of the creative, of the creative, looked to go abroad. They wanted a piece of the pie in the sky. They wanted to be part of the dream that we grew up yearning for from the images on television. And they never understood why I was drawing closer to what is Caribbean as my ideal. In fact, they said, why would you want to stay in that Maya? Maya was the word used in the 80s, but the 80s was a very burgeoning time in the Caribbean and more so in Trinidad for the creative industries. And I just fell into the spot of being able to showcase the work of the creative, because that was what actually was missing. So there are a lot of creatives and they wanted people to know that they exist. And then I used the platform of the runway and I used the medium of the stage to do creative ways of showing accessory design, textile design, fashion design, performing art, as part of the movement of animation and graphic design, because as part of Anime Carib, which has become the leading animation festival in the region. And so it was always trying to find a space to show off other people's artistic inclinations and talent. And inside of that, I enforced within that space that it must be Caribbean. Do not come to me and ask me to play a song that is non-Caribbean or reference something that is non-Caribbean in the expression of who we are. So I started mandating that with all of the people around me, and I kind of birthed a movement of Caribbeanists, of people who said that's the way to do it, and it aligned itself with Rapso art in Trinidad, which is poetry that comes from the yard or from the ghetto, and all of the things that had a grounded sense that were indigenous, that belonged to the Amerindians, I wanted to see and bring to the fore. The things that were Afro-Caribbean.
Between then and now, Rich,
intrinsically, I wanted to bring to the floor, as well as the Indo-Caribbean.
Between then and now, how has the evolution been? Are you satisfied? Are you content with the trajectory or the progress of that movement?
It is a challenging path, and if success is to be determined or to be defined, it would be by the trajectory, as you said, of me being here in Antigua. A week ago, I was in Trinidad. A week before that, I was doing Montreal Caribbean Fashion Week. And a week before that, I was doing Haute Couture in the St. Lucia Jazz and Arts Festival. And week before that, I was back in Antigua working on something. And I'm already working on Guyana Fashion Week. And I'm also working on Pan Am Games, which doing a show called Cutting Style. Together with Joan Peer, we won the commission to do a 3-day extravaganza of Caribbean fashion and an exhibition
Richard,
space.
When we come back, I want you to tell us. I want you to talk about Cutting Style as soon as we get back. Let me take a quick break, and I want you to just give us a little glimpse of what Cutting Style is all about. All right?
Okay.
All right, good.